Coming to you live from deep within a blah, 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 blah. Welcome to the Rantzerker. My name is Brian. I'm here with Karen. Alison is having technical issues, which should be of surprise to absolutely no one. She says she will try to get on when she's able, but we're going to have to do the show on without her because I have a life to get back to, and I think Karen does as well. So thanks for joining us on the show, and happy Halloween for anyone who celebrates the holiday.
Hey, diddly doodly, happy Halloweenies.
Yeah, happy Halloween, y'all. So anyway, yeah, well, we're gonna do more of this Jubilee thing, and before we get started, I'm gonna ask that you guys consider supporting the fundraiser. I know that we're almost done. I think this is the last day, so like I don't know how well we've done because I don't manage any of those things. Alison does, but yeah, that's feedthebadgers.com / what is it?
Just the
Support to survive. No, is it support?
Support.
I don't remember. Okay. So yeah, help us get over the finish line if we're not quite there yet. And if you want to send us a message at any time during this, I will be sure to prioritize your messages. If you go to feedthebadger.com / just the tip to send us a message. And of course, you can use super chats and Rumble rants as well. But Karen, how are you doing today?
I'm a little under the weather, but not too bad. Who the fuck is texting me right now?
Karen's internet seems to be a lot better.
She just had to text me to say start without me.
Okay, well,
I think
you know, if Alison just went into the back room of the YouTube channel that she controls, she would see that we are already live, and there'd be no need for that. But anyway, say hello to Jojo, who is also with us. Yeah, he's just sort of sleeping. He's holding in his poop. I know he has to go, but I can't take him right now because we have to do the show. So he'll be okay. He's a tough cookie, and he'll be able to hang in there. But that's probably why he's curled up like that.
Is it coming out his bum right now?
He's trying to control. No, I'm sure he's fine, but he does have to go. I haven't taken him out because I've been busy running around doctor's appointments and running other errands, so I haven't had a chance to take him.
You're in
the apartment. Yeah, I don't have a yard.
That's so fucking difficult to have a dog.
Yeah,
you know, cats are easy that way. You know, the litter box and all that, but yeah, no, it's even with little Borat here, and he's not like a super outsidey dog. He's scared that the crows are going to eat him. But yeah, no, if I just couldn't let him out the front door, right? And I just put him on the big long extendable leash, and I let him out the front door.
Yeah.
And then I close the door on the leash and just let it hang off the doorknob. And you know, and because our yard isn't fully fenced, right? And yeah, but in the winter it's awful because if it gets really cold here, like sometimes -40, and you have to let them out. And by the time he's done his business, it's like I have to go out and pick him up and carry him inside because his legs aren't working anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but he'll be okay. So I will take good care of him after the show is over. We are going to be doing a patron show as well. I mean, in theory. So he can come hang out with us for a spooky show. Alison was suggesting that I put on a slasher movie or something. I'm not going to be able to watch the whole thing because I have to pick Lindsay up at 3:30 because this is my life now. So there you go.
Well, I won't be. I have to be done by like I guess 1:30 or something like that.
But so. What time is it where you are right now?
It's 10:13.
Okay. So yeah, 2-hour difference. Yeah, that's fine. I got to be done by 3 my time completely.
Oh, so that's 1.
Yeah, 1.
Yeah, okay.
So, all right, but anyway, so let's get into the video. I'm going to turn on my automatic scene switcher, and this is Jubilee. We're still going through the video. I think there's a lot of like useful stuff in here. I've watched it a few times, at least things that you can expand on, that someone can expand on. So that's why I'm kind of sticking with it, and maybe we can look at the best arguments and respond to them. So where we left off, they were asking the question, or they were making they make a claim, and then people step forward if they agree and stay where they are if they disagree. And then the people who agree step forward and they have a little conversation about why they agree. And then they bring out the disagreeers, and then they have like a conversation on that. So the question we left off at, or where we were starting at, was it's called Women's Sexual Capital Gives Them an Advantage Over Men. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say that this is called Men's Rights Activists versus Feminists, but this talking point or this statement isn't really a men's rights statement. It doesn't have anything to do with policy or law or, like any of that. It's just like kind of a red pill manosphere thing that they're sort of bringing into this. So, but I think, yeah, sure, women's sexual capital, I think, does give them an advantage over men, not just with men, but also with women. But I would add to that it's okay that it does. And I don't think that that's an injustice or something like that we have to change or fix, because it is what it is. So I don't really see why this has become a topic. But anyway, we're going to hear from the woman in the, is that maroon? Her dress? She's the second from the left. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to hear from her.
I think it's conditioned because it is so refreshing and welcome and amazing when I meet a man who does not treat me that way. They do not treat me like a sexual object. They treat me like a person. They talk to me like a person. They give me what I paid for. I get my item and I leave. And there's no weird, like, did I owe him anything?
Can I respond to that? In my personal experience, men only talk to women they want to sleep with. Yeah. In my personal experience, women have to be attractive on top of their job. You can't just be a lawyer. You have to be an attractive lawyer. You can't just be a dentist. You have to be an attractive dentist. I think when men talk about...
This guy's on the men's rights side, by the way. Go ahead.
Okay, my husband's dentist is a dumpy, middle-aged Chinese woman. The lawyers, the idea, here's a lawyer who's not necessarily very attractive, but who has become extremely successful. Her name is Harriet Hageman, and she's the person who unseated Liz Cheney in Wyoming for her seat in Congress, right? Okay, you just have to be friendly and have some substance, right? Men often don't talk to women that they aren't sexually interested in because they're scared of talking to women, period. Okay? Because they are always thinking that, what if I say something wrong? What if I say something that gets taken the wrong way, right? I have seen women who are butt ugly, right, act like they're being hit on when a guy's just being friendly, when he's just being personable, right? It's the same thing with, like, when I see a cute baby in the cart in front of me in the lineup at the grocery store, and I like make faces at him, and I, like, men don't do that because they're worried that they're going to get called a pedo. Like, this is, I mean, there is so much complication to this other than, you have to, you don't have to be attractive as a woman to be a lawyer. You just have to be competent, right? I'm sorry, but, I'm not an 8.5 here.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, I'm
awfully popular.
I think that men talk to women for all kinds of reasons. Like, it's not just, because he's saying men only talk to women when they want to sleep with them, which is essentially the supporting the previous woman's case, which is, it's so men are, what is it? They have to be socialized out of treating women like objects, which is like the presumption this starts from. Otherwise, right, that's how I know it's true, because I've been treated well by men. Well, you've probably been treated well by men like 99.9% of the time, but most of that you didn't even notice because they were just going about their business.
Yeah.
And
it's like I chat with cashiers all the time, right? I always do that. And it's like there's this one cashier. It's like a Jamaican immigrant, and he runs my items through, and he says, "So what do you think? Next week, will America be saved?" And I'm like, "I hope so." And he's like, "I hope so too. That woman is crazy." Right? And we're up in Canada, right? And, and it's just like, I'm just but I joke with people all the time. They joke with me back, right? Men are very friendly to me, and I'm pretty sure they don't want to sleep with me. I'm a 53-year-old woman.
Yep. So yeah, just kind of ridiculous thing to jump into, but this just shows you the level of discourse that's going on here. So let's play some more of this.
About sexual capital in women, it's because they literally ignore every other woman in that area.
There's like this concept of like men get put in the friend zone, women get put in the zone.
So do you think that, you know, some of what I heard is it is what it is. Men are attracted to beautiful women. So there's kind of a natural order argument. This is just the way we behave, whether it's biologically, or do you feel that it's conditioned?
I do think it's conditioned.
Can I respond to that? I think it's a little both.
Oh, at least a little of both. Yes.
Men being attracted to women has only worked for as long as there have been men and women. That's why I'm here, is because my father was attracted to my mother.
Yes.
And my mother was attracted to my father.
But the whole thing, like she's saying, well, it's a little bit of both, right? And what she's talking about is not, you know, like, is it nature or is it nurture? Well, it's a little bit of both, because, you know, like beauty standards in different cultures tend to have little nuanced differences, but there are a few things that are universals, and at least in terms of female, what's considered universally attractive in women, and it's neoteny, which is cuteness. You could basically say cuteness. So cute like a puppy, cute like a kitten, cute like, you know, as opposed to a more masculinized form of attractiveness, and a certain waist to hip ratio. And they used to think that it was different in Africa, in certain cultures in Africa, until they actually got out a measuring tape or a tape measure and measured around these women's bottoms, right? Because they had narrower hips, but they had big butts, right?
Yeah.
And they found that waist to hip ratio was exactly the same, right? So, I mean, you don't necessarily have to have an super hourglass figure, if you got the big booty out back.
Right. But, well, it's not an absolute anyway. Like some, you know, let's say it's not like there is one specific set of measurements that men are like, that are into. There is a broad variety, but there are general truths about that. And that's like it shouldn't be controversial. It's almost like what they're saying is that heterosexuality in men is the problem, because that's what it keeps coming back to. You know, like if these guys were just gay, then there wouldn't be a conversation, even though gay men might harass other men, like sexually, but, you know, and I don't even think that happens that often. But if you're in the wrong, like if you go to the Blue Oyster from the Police Academy movies, you might end up having to do a tango with a guy. But but again, that's like, I don't know. It is a mix, but I think that nature is a big part of it that we shouldn't ignore.
Absolutely. Yeah. Signs of youth, much more so on the female attractiveness side, because women have a reproductive window, right? And so if you weren't attracted to a woman until she was my age, right, you were never going to get a shot. So your genes and your preference for an older woman would die out, right? It would be expunged from the gene pool. Signs of health, clear complexion, thick, healthy hair, right? All of these things, right? When you're looking at a woman and you're assessing her as a potential mate. Well, what is mating? It's making babies. That's what mating is, right? And you're looking for reproductive potential. Even if you consciously know that you don't want kids, the part of your brain that's making the assessment of her fitness as a partner, as a sexual partner, is based on her reproductive potential. That's just how it is. You know, you can compensate for that with intellect and being interesting and being funny and being fit and you know, like healthy, even, you know, as you get older and things like that. But you know, like it's always going to be different. You're always going to have women who are like, George Clooney doesn't even need to dye his gray. I would bang that guy 8 ways from Sunday. There's no fucking lineup of
he's been a silver fox for a long time, kind of like
Yeah.
Richard Gere. So with
Yeah,
men they kind of they rock that
Well,
differently.
but they-
Although women with white hair also can look good too.
it's because they can impregnate a woman and provide their role, which is provisioning and support and and protection, well into their 60s and 70s, right? Especially if they're wealthy. And whereas women need to kind of maintain at least the illusion of youth in order to remain sexually attractive. And it's, I'm sorry, but this is just the way it is, and it's all based on evolution, right? And even look at it like, okay, in the 70s, when most people started working mostly indoors, right? Having a tan made you attractive because it meant you had recreational time to spend out in the sun. You didn't have to be closeted in an office working. Whereas like 100 years before, if you had a tan, everybody thought you were unattractive because it meant that you had to go out and work in the freaking elements, in the sunshine. So you were obviously one of those poor people, low status person, right? So it's like you look at all of these calculations, these are all evolutionary calculations. These are all based on judgments that are part of our evolved wetware.
Yeah.
So
all right. So anyway, I'm going to play more of the video here. Hold on. Allison's asking me to put JoJo in the vertical. It's a pain in the ass. All right. So because it's not just me dropping the image in there. I have to like set up the scene and everything. It's kind of a big thing.
Okay, anyway, well, tell her no. Just tell her no.
I'm going to play the video.
I do think that is a little bit of the natural order of things, but like for instance, I think a big, like my only really interaction with these man spaces or the manosphere spaces are these like red pill podcasts that I've gone on a million times, like Fresh and Fit, whatever, where they bring on women like me that are making all this, oh, you're on OnlyFans. They bring in all these sex workers and then they tell us we're low value, nobody will ever love us, we're for the streets, and they do all of that. And then my comments get flooded with that. That's conditioned. That is conditioned.
I just said
no, it's not. It's actually not. It's not conditioned. It's an actual. They're trying to help you, honey. Right? Because if they see
she doesn't want anyone telling her how to live her life. Obviously.
Yeah.
So and men especially. But yes, they're trying to help you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. It's like what was his name? Kevin Samuels.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he'd bring these women on, and he'd be like, okay, well. All right, the OnlyFans thing is only going to work for so long, right? And what are you doing with your money? Right? Because you're making a lot of money. What are you doing with it? Are you investing it? Because you can only, it's like Miss Mugs and Jugs at the Red Lion Inn in Victoria, when I used to go there, and, sometimes they'd have strippers, and me and my husband my ex sat and talked with her for a while because he was working in the kitchen there. She owned like 7 apartment buildings, right? Mm-hmm. She was just like, I only have 4 more years of this, and then me and my mom, who was her manager, can retire. And she's 30 years old. So, it's...
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is that, by the way, I got a Rumble rant from Noah Fan. He says, I'm still waiting for a feminist campaign that shames the women who keep going after bad boys with tons of red flags. The other thing too is that, it doesn't really matter what Fresh and Fit or the whatever podcast or whatever say about women who have OnlyFans accounts, because ultimately, there are men that will have, some men, maybe, a lot of men will say, well, I don't want to date a girl like that. They have a problem with body counts. They have a problem with promiscuity. And then, believe it or not, women are they're horny bitches. I think they're hornier than men. I honestly do. When you look at, how much lascivious, content they consume, I think that I think it might be worse than men's using porn, and women use porn too. But anyway, I digress. My point is that men are allowed to have standards, and they're allowed to be discerning, and they're allowed to basically say, I don't want to date somebody who has an OnlyFans and a body count over 20. I don't want that. And the thing is that these women, because she's going to get into it, I think, it's not even that they feel like they're being shamed. It's that they don't want any judgment at all. They want to be celebrated no matter what their decisions are, and they don't want any negative consequences, including and especially this kind of like judgment that they might get from men and women, by the way. And that's sort of like it's not even on her radar. She's just offended that men have opinions on her. And that's the thing. Men are not allowed to have standards. They're not allowed to have opinions. They're not allowed to be like, this is what I want from a woman without getting shame, because we have already put men into this black category where anything that they express concerns with, it should be dismissed on its face because they are part of like the evil oppressor class. And so that can't be changed. It can't be challenged. Anyway, let's hear the rest of her argument. So I'm just gonna play this.
Fit really sucks.
It does. 100%. Yeah.
You do not like them. They are
okay. So Blue Orange is trying to distance himself from them. Yeah. I think it's dumb. I don't think there's a point to it. No. They don't care. It's like, you know what you're going to be doing. You're going to be condemning them until you die. It's going to be just like Trump, where Trump has to keep saying, I wasn't talking about the white nationalists. They should be condemned totally. It's the same thing, guys. You got to stop it. Like, you just got to look, when people do that, just let them cope and seethe over there. And then just say, look, when you're ready to engage with adult conversations about like Title IX and divorce and child custody and paternity fraud, etc., then you can come sit at the big boys table over here where the adults are at. Otherwise, you over there whine about the podcasts that are shaming sluts, But wow, revolutionary. No one's ever done that. Like, and that I'm sorry, but if you're watching, Thomas, I don't care that you're doing this. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. It certainly doesn't mean anything to them. And I think you know that. I think you should know that. Like, you are the enemy, full stop. Okay?
Yeah, no, it's like they've basically splattered him with a bunch of gentian violet, riddled shit. And he's thinking, oh, well, if I just put a little shout on it, right? And rub it in, the stain will come out. No, it's there and it will always be there.
Yeah, right? I mean, like,
live with the stain.
Look at how they treat Dr. Warren Farrell. I mean, that's all you need to know. Like, there's no one more accommodating to the feminist view than him.
Cuddly too, right?
Yeah, he's like, well, what do they call him? What do they say about him? How do they treat him in the media?
He's a pedophile apologist, and
incest supporter. Like, it's insane. It's insane stuff. And because the truth is that they know that none of these things are actually true.
Yeah.
But they know that it's effective when they use it. In fact, people like Warren Farrell, who are more diplomatic, are actually more of a target because they're a bigger target because those people can actually like make some progress, and so they have to be stopped. I know that when Thomas was on my show, he was like, we need more Riz. I was like, well, I don't know what this means. Like, we have to tell the truth. That's it. Like, you got to tell the truth. Yeah. That's all that we have is the truth. That's the one thing we have that they don't have. So we have to tell the truth, and we have to stop like trying to figure out how to tell it in a way that doesn't like piss them off, because they're already pissed off. They're pissed off with everything.
Yeah. No. Like, I mean, you even look at it like not even a feminist woman, right? Just some random commenter, right? And I was watching a video. It was like right after that Monk debate. It was years and years ago.
Which one? Which debate?
They had 4 feminist women come on to argue the proposition that men are obsolete.
Were there any? Were they all feminists? The whole
all
debate?
Feminists. One was Camille Paglia. So kudos to them for bringing on the feminist who only calls herself a feminist because it pisses feminists off. But 4 feminist women. And so then the agenda with Steve Paikin, which is a TV Ontario program, they had on a panel of men, including Jordan Peterson and someone from Cafe, right, to discuss the implications of the fact that the slight majority of the audience at the start of the debate believed that, they took the no position. Men are not obsolete. But by the time the debate was finished, the majority believe that, yes, men are obsolete. And what are the implications of this? And some woman in the comments section says, I can't believe you didn't have a single woman on that panel. And I'm like, so I just freaking laid into that bitch. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Right? They have 4 women debating on a national stage whether men are obsolete, and you're gonna complain that they didn't invite a woman onto a panel of men discussing, okay, so what do we do now? Because apparently we're fucking obsolete.
Yeah, really.
Like, men aren't even allowed to have an opinion about themselves.
No, they're not.
So
That's where we are now. All right, so she's going on about the manosphere, and Blue Orange is trying to say, hey, I'm with you on this, honey. Let's team up and do the men's rights thing, which of course she has no interest in doing. But hey, go ahead. Pandering works really well.
Trash, the garbage. They're from South Florida, unfortunately. I don't like
Pro
them.
does.
But why do OnlyFans?
Karen says I don't have a problem with them. That's how I feel. I don't see, like, they're not an obstacle. They've been there. I've been doing this before they came along. I'll be doing this after they're gone. It's sort of like, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's because the same men, their audience that hates us, they're also making me a shit ton of money.
Exactly. Like, you're pretty much a prop for them to make money,
Exactly.
because they'll have you on the podcast and you'll be like the eye candy, but they don't actually care about your opinions. They're just using you as a prop to put down.
Yeah.
And so that could feed into their audience.
People don't respect sex workers because it's easy to take your clothes off. That's why they don't respect them.
It's also easy to open.
People
I mean, is she wrong though?
that's why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because she's the only one of the 4 on that side who have the balls to say it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. That's what I'm saying. Pearl is the only one up there with the balls to say it. No one else will say it. It's like, so this woman on the right, the OnlyFans model, model, let's not say that. The OnlyFans girl is saying that she has been on these podcasts, like Whatever and Fresh and Fit. I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of women go on those podcasts to promote their OnlyFans page. Like, it's how they grow their pages, okay?
Yep.
So they know they're going into a lion's den, and they go there to promote themselves,
And
because
then they come out with a big bag.
and they come out with some followers. And probably, yes, there are men who are like, I don't like what you do. But of course, she doesn't differentiate between the men who watch because they like to see the conversation, or these women get like told, like that what you're doing is self-destructive and you probably shouldn't be doing that or whatever. And then there are some gooners that watch and they're like, oh, I'm going to spank it to this tonight. But those are not the same person. They are different people. But she only sees men as one giant block, so she's just going to say, they're hypocrites. They're like, they're trashing me, but they're also, touching themselves to me or whatever. And I would be like, well, yeah, I wish that all men would stop giving money to OnlyFans girls because they don't like you, to be honest. They just want your money, and then make them go broke, like that's what I would say. But Alison is back. Now I have to move everything again. So why don't you guys get caught up while I do that?
Allison, why do you make him put what's his name in the vertical? Well, it works, so we can see you. Huh.
Hopefully the sound, is the sound good, Brian?
The sound
is it
seems fine to
sufficient?
me.
Yeah, it seems fine. I just
Okay.
had to move everything back over, and the audience probably missed some of that because before I put your camera in, if you're talking, they can't hear you. So
Oh, okay.
that's why
Well,
this is something that should be set up before we start. I know that things happened out of your control, but I'm just letting you know that if we have these problems, the audience is going to miss chunks of the show while I'm moving things back to the way they were. So
Yeah.
it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, well,
There you
maybe
go.
what we could do going forward is just have a scene to accommodate as many different forms of technical difficulty as possible, like mute Karen dropping out, me dropping out, Brian drops out, and we're all gone. But yeah,
my thing is actually working perfectly for a change. So
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we got one thing going. Like, honestly, I think part of the reason is that we stream so often because we're trying to, my theory is that we are censored, guys. You know that? We got censored on the level of algorithm. We also know that feminist organizations seem to routinely canvass YouTube to force even more censorship on content that we do. And we also know that we found out through the grapevine that they have direct access to the back door of YouTube, or the back doors of YouTube. So my thought was, since we're dealing with censorship, and to go for, let's do as much as we can, and maybe through volume we'll start to rise our head above the waves of censorship, shall we say, if that makes sense. But of course the fact that we do this almost daily means that the systems that we have, there's a lot more pressure on them, and we don't have like additional staff to maintain. Well, I have Jonathan, who helps quite a bit. He's why I'm on now. But we don't really. Go ahead.
Don't feel too bad about it, because like when I went on the Young Turks at one time, Cenk was like half an hour late getting to the studio. It was supposed to be an hour, but then when he got there, the feeds weren't working properly. So basically, I could only see him. I couldn't see me. He could only see me. He couldn't see him. And the end result was, it was just his brown buffalo face on there and my voice. And like even a studio that has staff have technical difficulties. I was like listening to CBC radio the other morning, Edmonton AM, and they brought on a sports guy to discuss sports and all the different trades and things like that, right? And yeah, no, it was just like, it was a completely one-sided conversation. It was like, yeah, that's interesting. And then extended silence. Well, that was last year, and then extended silence because somebody forgot to push a button, or the button wasn't pushing. So
yeah, well, we do what we can. And yeah, thank you for that, because I've noticed that as well. In fact, when we responded to Shira, I mean, we've had throughout the years, we've had so many complaints, like, why didn't you do scripted content? Why didn't you blah, blah, blah? And I was like watching this 1 million sub woman, and she's just in front of her camera. Half of the freaking stream, you remember that, Brian? Half of it was silence. 1/4 was her snickering.
Well, she's reading the chat and laughing at the chat.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I think it might be because her audience is mostly women. There's like a 2-directional attention economy going on, where women are in her chat typing, and they're hoping she sees their posts, and she is benefiting from the fact that they're typing about what little she's doing on the screen. And since most of our audience is men, I think they expect something like, I don't know, substantial.
I think we deliver substantial. I mean,
more than Shira. I'm saying it's, yeah.
That just really struck me. Like 1 million for that. Like 1 million for the most low effort. Like a lot of our effort comes into the research that we do off camera, right? Like the stuff that we read, and I know Karen does a ton of research. I do a ton of research. So we're bringing stuff and trying to make this insightful. And the presentation can be difficult because, again, I tried to aim for a continuous content to create that kind of community, and also to try to break through the censorship barrier. But it is what it is. I apologize for my entire setup crashing. I'm not actually a tech person, so I do what I can. I'll just put it that way. But we're here now. I'm here now. So let's continue.
All right. So we were talking about this OnlyFans model, the woman on the right. She is essentially complaining about the whatever podcast and these other places that she goes, and how and Fresh and Fit and stuff, and how the same people who will dog her for being an OnlyFans model will also go and subscribe to her OnlyFans and goon to her content. And I was explaining that those are 2 different groups of men, but she doesn't see men as like different people. She sees them as a blob, and though she's criticizing the blob. And what we were really just recently commenting on was that just like Blue Orange went on, and he basically said, I disavow all of these terrible men that are doing the bad thing because I'm one of the good ones. And then Pearl just says, yeah, but like
the reason why people shame sex workers is because it's easy to take your clothes off.
Right. So Pearl just basically puts it like she's honest, which none of the other guys want to do. Right. I mean, Ariel is a plant. He was just like, yeah, they're just using you like an object. I'm not like them. I'm not one of those guys. I'm one of the good ones.
Yeah, no, it's that I don't understand how that dude is the one on the far right.
Yeah.
Is
not
in
real.
any way a men's rights anything.
He doesn't even believe men are people. He believes they're plants. Women are people, though. Women are real. Men are not.
He doesn't also believe that women are plants.
No. He thinks women are real because he uses the word women when he describes them, especially when they're victims of the plants that are men. So I want to have him on. I swear to God, I want to have him on. I want him to explain to me how men are not humans and the entire identity of man is completely artificial. But women, those are women. When they're victims. When they're not victims, they're also plants. But when they're victims, they're women. It's a very malleable definition.
Respect things that are hard. And sex work, OnlyFans, that's not hard.
And why is it that people still respect like Leonardo DiCaprio sleeping with small? It's really easy for him to do that. Nobody bats an eye.
For him sleeping with who?
Yeah, for him sleeping with young women. It's because he's talented, rich beyond fucking belief, still reasonably good looking. That's why. It's because he's got the jackpot, right? He's always been good looking, right? He's insanely wealthy. He's insanely famous and high status, right? He's talented, okay? That's all you need to know.
There's a difference between...
He's
I know a guy.
Philanthropic, in terms of, he's a spokesperson for climate change and blah, 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 right? Okay, so he's got all of this social and sexual capital that any man could want, right? Of course he's going to be banging 23-year-olds. And I don't mean because there's 20 of them. I mean, they're 23 years old.
Okay, I just want to point out something. If he is being celebrated, it's because of his accomplishments. The reason why he allegedly is banging 20-year-olds. I've heard that the possibility is he's using them as beards, but regardless, the reason why he's in that position is because of his excellence. That's why he's lauded. Okay, and people aren't actually lauding him for banging the 20-year-olds mostly.
No, actually, they joke about it.
They joke about it.
They make jokes about how like Leonardo DiCaprio's latest girlfriend, just celebrated her 25th birthday and got the Dear Jane letter in her birthday card, right? Like they're like they mock him for that because it's like, just fucking pick one and stick with her, right?
Yeah,
it's not like they're praising him for like wading through, just slogging through one after another, and then when they hit like 24 or 25, it's like, okay, see you later.
No, they aren't praising him. But the thing is that his excellence in what he did is why he's able to do that, and that gets praised.
Well, there are some people who I guess praise him, but most of the people that I know, like who they're just like, it's kind of sleazy.
Yeah. Oh, and also some people apparently think he's actually, gay, and they're just a smokescreen.
Well, I mean, it's
which
Hollywood,
is plausible.
baby.
Yeah, it's entirely plausible.
It's Hollywood. But what I was just gonna say though, like honestly, he didn't take off his shirt to be famous. He worked hard as an actor. And the other thing is, there's a difference between someone who looks like Steve Buscemi and someone who is Steve Buscemi when it comes to women. So like that Leonardo DiCaprio attracts 20-year-olds because he's fucking Leonardo DiCaprio. If he was some guy who looked like Leonardo DiCaprio, he would be a lot less successful because he wouldn't be Leonardo DiCaprio. So that it's really that simple. And it's a stupid comparison because this is a random OnlyFans woman online. I don't know her name, but if it was like, Monica Bellucci, I'd be like, yeah, that's Monica Bellucci. Or who's the really hot Latina chick from Blade Runner? 2049. I can't remember her name, but just like a beautiful woman that's famous. So it's a stupid comparison to begin with, because you're taking off your shirt. But I think Pearl's going to point that out, which is good, because she's the only one on here that's actually got the balls to tell the truth.
When extremely rich and wealthy,
I don't think
successful
that's
men,
common.
wait,
I
when
think more men
extremely
would
rich,
do that.
successful, healthy, and good-looking men sleep with a lot of women, even though it's easy for them to do so, they're not looked down on the same way that, like, for example, a sex worker maybe using her body. It's also important to note that, like, this whole idea of, like, sex workers and OnlyFans girls, like, making a ton of money is extremely new. Who owns, like, 99% of the actual porn industry and the production studios? It's men.
Oh, I wouldn't go there. Sorry, that's I wouldn't go there, my friend. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Men historically and even today still are the ultimate benefactors of women's sexuality.
And men only started getting upset about porn and all this stuff when women started making their own money on OnlyFans. Men did not complain about porn before the proliferation of OnlyFans.
What? The Mies Commission. Congress had a fucking commission on whether to outlaw porn. Do none of you bitches remember? I guess you're not old enough to remember that.
No, Karen, and this is what's frustrating me about this entire conversation. We're having a conversation with people who are willfully ignorant about history. They know nothing, and they shout down any attempt to correct them as misogyny. How do you have any kind of reasonable conversation with people who don't think outside of what they're told?
Porn used to be out. The reason Section 230 exists was so that platforms could delete things like porn, right? That they could remove users' posts if they were porn. If it's, you're just having a Facebook group with a knitting circle, right? And you're like doing crochet and stuff, right? And then somebody like posts a bunch of porn, right? On your Facebook feed or whatever, right? Well, Section 230 allows platforms and the people who own their own accounts, right, to delete posts off of those platforms and those accounts. Like, I'm allowed to delete the comments that I don't like under my videos. I don't do that, but I'm allowed to. But they do that so that, because there were two decisions, there were two judgments, right? One was of a forum that didn't do any moderation whatsoever of any of the content. And so users uploaded stuff, and somebody uploaded something defamatory about someone, and then that platform got sued by someone who was defamed. And basically the court said, well, the platform doesn't have any responsibility for this. As long as they don't moderate anything, the only person who's responsible for that defamatory comment is the person who made it, right? And then they had another decision where it was like, if a platform wanted to delete things like porn and obscenity and, hostile commentary and stuff like that, to keep their platform kind of friendly and, fit for purpose, for their purpose. And they said, no, you can be sued for removing content that's legal, right? And they were like, okay, so how do we find a way between these two decisions that if you moderate, you can be sued, and if you don't moderate, you can't be sued, right? And Section 230 is what they came up with. And they came up with that, and this is a mostly male Congress, in order to prevent things like porn, things like obscenity, things like, people sexually harassing others online, all of those kinds of things, right? So mostly male Congress put in Section 230, which gives these platforms blanket liability against any kind of lawsuit whatsoever other than their own speech, and allows them to delete accounts and ban people for life and, just go ban happy willy-nilly over like completely mundane stuff that they disagree with, right? They have that protection because men wanted to protect society from porn.
Yeah. Let's get into, we got to hear the next part of this, because now we're going to get into whether or not it's harder to do OnlyFans or to be Leonardo DiCaprio. So This should be educational.
Podcast did not exist back then.
Pearl, what do you think?
Was it difficult for Leonardo DiCaprio to become rich and successful? Is that a difficult thing to do?
In his case, maybe, but for a lot of men, not necessarily.
To be a world-renowned.
So it's not hard for a lot of men. Did you guys know this? Obviously, you all are just lazy bastards because you're not Leonardo DiCaprio, rich, famous, and able to access women. And it was actually harder for him than it is for you. Do you know that, guys? Did you know that? Not necessarily. Right. I've been doing things all wrong. It's my fault. I should have DiCaprio'd harder.
You should have DiCaprio pilled.
Wasn't his first movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Yeah.
Right?
So, and he played like a retarded kid or something?
Retarded kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
He played a retarded kid. And I'm like, okay, so that's some talent, right? And that's a lot of range in terms of, just the kinds of roles that he can do convincingly, right? He can do villains and he can do heroes and retarded kids. And he can, he's a very versatile actor and he has not been typecast, right? Which is another thing that, he's managed to evade through his talent and maybe his smarts in making the decision to, say what you want about Arnold Schwarzenegger. The reason he was initially, they wanted him cast as Kyle Reese.
Yeah, that would have been.
It would have been rough.
Yeah, there's no replacing Michael Biehn for that role. But go on.
Yeah, but he said, I don't want to get typecast as the hero. I want to do a villain role.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So even he was smart enough to do that.
Well, he did give us Mr. Freeze. But okay, but I want to reiterate what this guy's argument is, okay? So Pearl said, was it difficult for Leonardo DiCaprio to become rich and successful? Is that a difficult thing to do? And then this guy responded, in his case, maybe. But for a lot of men, not necessarily.
What a bunch. Okay.
If you inherit money, okay, but that doesn't mean you're successful. It doesn't mean you're accomplished. It doesn't mean you have high status. It doesn't mean that you're going to have that kind of famous and all of that. It doesn't mean you're going to have that kind of access unless you're Paris Hilton.
Yep.
Okay. I think I know what fallacy they're engaging in here. They believe because there are more men who are wealthy, like Leonardo DiCaprio, that it's easier for men to attain wealth than women, which is total bullshit.
He didn't earn his wealth and his fame just by taking off his clothes online on a camera.
Yeah, but the point is that they are saying that because they see more wealthy men, wealth must be easier for men to get.
Yeah, I know. And it's absolutely fucking stupid. It's the dumbest argument, especially given what Pearl is, I hope she's setting it up here to go for the freaking punchline.
Yeah,
right?
Let's find out.
Do you think
could you just answer yes or no? Is that hard to do?
I don't. That's a big question. I don't know.
What do you?
I think it's hard to do, and that's why people respect it. Being a sex worker is easy to do, so people don't respect it.
But lots of people do easy things. They start YouTube channels spewing nonsense.
OnlyFans also don't make a lot of money. Most OnlyFans girls do not make money.
And they're not respected either.
Right. Most OnlyFans girls don't make money.
And
they're wasting their time.
Most men don't make a lot of money either. What the hell is this argument?
Well, here's something. I forgot to read this Rumble rant from NovaFan. This actually puts it succinctly as well. For $1, and he says the difference is homeless men can't get hundreds of dollars for taking their shirts off, but homeless women can.
Yeah.
So there you go. We lost Allison. She turned her camera off.
I'm still here. I'm just my camera is just screwed up. So
okay.
Just randomly. It's still the camera is still sending information. It just Video Ninja for whatever reason dropped. Let me see what I can do. Is Karen still there?
Yeah, she's here. Yeah, we're both here.
I'll pop out and pop back in. So
all right, I'm gonna hit play.
Yeah,
okay, I'm not gonna freak out.
Okay.
All right.
I'll just I'll just work with this. I'll figure it out.
Are men who were born into wealth and naturally good looking, when they sleep with a lot of women, are they demonized for that and called sluts?
They're called dogs.
No. So it doesn't matter whether or not it was difficult for them to get to a high status or if they were just born into it. Being a man doesn't preclude.
But they're not demonized. They're not demonized, but it's generally difficult for men to be selected by a lot of women, and the dating app stats will back that up.
That's not.
So again, I know you're asking about demonization, but the original question was, why does Leonardo DiCaprio celebrated? It's because it is hard. Being a sex worker is easy.
Okay. And you know, another thing too is that he says he brings up a very specific subset of men that are born into wealth and they inherit it from their family. Women also can inherit money from their family and be born into wealth as well. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's like, yeah, so what? Rich people exist. Get over it. Like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm not rich. I don't care that other people are. I don't know why these people are so preoccupied with that. And another thing too is that if women are drawn to the 1% of men who, you know, like cross all the
men will climb that ladder.
Why wouldn't they take advantage of that? Like, are you going to tell women to change their standards? Because I don't see that happening. That's never going to happen. No. You're never going to do it because, you know, like, this is like the double bind that you're stuck in. You want men to be ashamed for working hard to acquire wealth and status so they can attract women. You think they should be shamed in the same way that a woman takes off her shirt for OnlyFans, but you will not have any issue with women choosing those men because you can't do anything about that. You're stuck, right? What are you going to do? You can't tell women what their preferences are. No, that's against the law or something. That's against the rules of feminism. Hold on, Alison. I gotta put you back in because for some reason your sound's not coming out because you are. Just give me a second. I gotta put you in here. What the fuck? I see. It's because I have these turned on. Give me a second. I'm sorry, guys. I just got to put the correct link in so that people can hear your audio and see your camera. All right. So give me a second. All right. Now it should show up unless your camera crashed again. Oh, no, you're there. You're there. Okay, you're good. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
So what I was going to say is I get the feeling that the assumption here, or what they're trying to say, or the perspective they're from, is that it's equivalent to shame women for engaging in OnlyFans, having multiple sexual, a significant number, being promiscuous, having children out of wedlock. It's equivalent to that, is equivalent to shaming men for not wanting that. Does that make sense? So shaming women for the behavior is no better than shaming men for not wanting to have these women, which is interesting if you think about it.
Shame men, they think that they should be shaming men for not wanting those women, right? For not wanting them. You know, and you see this, you know, and it's all over, particularly in I think it's the Unitarian Church. But it's all over everywhere now, you know, where you got these single mothers with the issue of 3 men trailing behind her with snot noses, you know, and the church leader, the deacon, the priest, the whatever, right, is admonishing the men in the congregation for not marrying these bitches up. And it's like, it's a burden. It's like it's a real burden to take on a woman who already has children, right? And has baggage, right? You know, not a lot of these women are providing much in return for asking for that kind of investment. And then you look at the, you know, the stats on, you know, risk of divorce and things like that. And you always have to say, like, correlation doesn't equal causation. And sometimes you have a situation where the groups are self-selecting. The women who are less likely to stay with a man for a long time are going to be the ones who sleep around a lot and stuff. But you look at the stats on divorce and marriage stability and things like that. And the fewer sexual partners a woman has, generally, the longer her relationships last, and the more stable they are. And so, I mean, you have to, as a man, you have to actually look at that as a potential red flag, right? Like, I mean, I guess if maybe you're into her showing her tits to every man on the planet who can afford the $5 to subscribe to her OnlyFans, maybe that gets you off, right? Who knows? But it's generally not a safe bet if what you're looking for is, you know, a wife, kids, stable life, maybe celebrate a 50th wedding anniversary kind of deal, right?
Well, here's the other thing that occurred to me. We say that men are feckless and don't care about their children, and we treat them in that way based on that stereotype in family courts and often in a lot of media. And at the same time as these women are expecting men to take responsibility for children that aren't even them, multiples, and have to deal with like this, it's like we basically said that the equivalent of saying something like, well, men can't even carry a feather. Now carry 300 pounds, men.
Yep.
And it's like, if you're going to expect this from men, then I think men should be recognized as being the kind of superior people who are willing to carry another human being's baggage. And we don't do that. We consider men to be inferior to women while holding them to a far higher standard. And it's the same thing that I was trying to say about the shaming. Somehow it's acceptable to shame. It's acceptable to shame men for their preferences, but not women for their behavior. What's that sound? It's really loud.
My air conditioner, I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe just mute while you're not, when you're not talking. I'm like a sound freak. So, like it unsettles me. At least when it comes to like being able to talk while there are loud sounds being made. But anyway, so that's my point is trying to say is that we expect so much from men. We hold them to such a high standard, and we consider them to be morally, socially, in terms of being parents, inferior. So how is it that we can both expect men to bear burdens that we would not place on women, but at the same time consider them to be inferior to women? That we need to sort this shit out. So if these deacons or whatever they are want to say, well, men, you need to take these burdens, then they should also be saying, well, men should be leaders, the leaders in their families, because they are morally better, they carry heavier burdens, and their expectations are higher. No, there's no two ways about this. If you want men to rise to a higher standard than you're expecting women to rise to, because you're not expecting women to control their urges and not reproduce with every good-looking strange that crosses their plate. Like, if you're not expecting that of them, you're instead expecting men to carry that baggage for them, then you recognize that men are superior.
Yep.
No two ways. Okay.
All right, let's play some more.
So you just said he's celebrated because it's hard, but you just admitted earlier. Wait, you just also admitted earlier that a guy who is successful and born into wealth and born into a naturally good-looking body is also celebrated for sleeping a lot.
That's not really that.
It's not actually contingent on other.
That's a caveat. I would say even men still need to learn to be attractive to women, even if they're born into wealth and naturally good looking.
Women also.
It's still. That's fine.
I think it's just dumb.
Are you what are you like? Are we just listening to people who just say obvious bullshit just to win? Like, what's the point? Can we elevate the discourse? Like, I was invited to this thing. I don't know what I would have done if I was on the panel. I'd just be sitting here thinking, how do I open my mouth and talk about anything worthwhile? The instant I do, I'll just get a bunch of sheep buying at me. Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, how do you have, and these issues need to be discussed in intelligent ways, not as this kind of salacious, lowbrow content. Because this is a very difficult problem we're facing. We are facing a mismatch in the identity between men and women that's resulting in a complete cratering of our ability to reproduce and have families, which itself is probably the most dire thing that we're facing. Because guess what? It's not global warming. It is not being able to keep our technology running that will destroy the environment. That is the big cataclysm that we're facing. We don't reproduce. And this is a result of this mismatch in our identities. It needs people who can think where other people's brains turn down. And what is this nonsense? Again, I was invited to this. They were pretty. I remember all that, Karen. They seemed to really want me on. I don't know what I would have been doing there. What would I have been like? Nothing that I say is on a level that these people can understand. I mean, I maybe some of the people. That sounds really arrogant, doesn't it?
No, just sounds realistic. But yeah, no, like talking to a lot of these people is insane, and it's crazy making because it is kind of like just talking points. It's just talking points, and this is one of the reasons why I don't recommend university for anyone. Unless you want to be an engineer, unless you want to be a doctor, unless you want to be something where you actually have to go to university to get trained in that particular field, right? Do not go to university. Do not go to college. Don't go, because that's what produces people like them.
The more educated you are, the more wrong you're probably about a lot of things.
The more
education equals more indoctrination.
The more formally educated you are.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Formally educated.
Because like when you have people out there, you know, who are, you know, maybe they went to a 2-year, you know, got a 2-year diploma or something like that, associate's degree, I think it's called, right? And then they came out the other side and they made something really amazing. Even someone like TJ Kirk, right? The amazing atheist.
Oh yeah, sure. Banana.
Yeah, like I do not agree with anything that man says. And I just don't like. He started off like, I subscribed to him back when he was like lambasting feminism, but
he's lost the plot.
Yeah, he's gone completely hard left, right?
Sure.
But he dropped out of high school to make a YouTube channel.
He's on the internet, so he's on Reddit. He's like the Redditor.
Yeah, but to make a YouTube
what is
channel.
he doing now? What is he doing?
He's still got a channel. He's just gone
People
like hideous.
Still think atheism is fashionable, so he's still doing that, I guess.
Well, and no, he's doing mostly political anti-Trump stuff.
Okay, well, there's an audience for that for sure.
But yeah, no, it's like he got fourth stage 4 TDS, and he's just gone off the rails, but you know, he's attracted a new audience of people who are willing to give him enough income to, you know, support himself. So,
well, good on him. But also, I just have this picture in my mind, this sort of vivid picture looking at this. I can imagine this panel having this argument as like the back wall gets torn off and the city behind them is burning. And they're just still arguing, do we have a problem? Is there a problem?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think, and then we'd have these guys saying to everybody who comes to them and says, I think there might be a problem. You're just a misogynist. I'm going to sell you bullshit just to shut you down. Meanwhile, the back wall is burning and you could see things cratering in the city behind them. I think that you have the problem. I think that men have the problem. It's not society that has the problem. Men have the problem. And it's like,
it was the most amazing meme, right? Mm-hmm. Election meme, this election cycle, right? You know, the dog sitting at the table with the coffee mug.
This is fine. Yeah, this is fine meme. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it shows a woman in the exact same situation, and she's like, yeah, but abortion.
Yeah, exactly. Or exactly. There was another one. It's of a Shiba Inu with a wig, like a woman's wig. I showed it on the stream on Tuesday, and she's looking outside the window, and there's like a mushroom cloud. You know, the end of the world is happening. Everything's on fire, and she turns back, and he's like, "Well, the good news is I can still get abortions."
You won't even have to pay for them. The environment, the toxins, and the radiation will cause you to spontaneously abort.
Well, you'll also die, but that's probably the ultimate point. So, yeah. We should play more of the video. Go ahead.
That's what you call an extreme late term abortion, is when the radiation and toxins get you And yeah, you were aborted 28 years after you were born.
Okay, we have this persistent problem in humanity, and I'm looking at this from a very wide view. We develop these technologies. These technologies completely disrupt our ability to form relationships, and then our societies crater. We need to solve this problem. That's the I don't know, million mile up view, but we need to solve this, and it needs better conversations than this.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, it does. Okay.
But some of the top OnlyFans creators aren't attractive at all.
Can I ask Pearl?
That's subjective. That's subjective. Clearly not.
We got a question.
I have a question. You say being a sex worker is easy, but look at I know you love statistics. How come most OnlyFans women don't earn a living?
Because they don't
make a lot.
Because they don't care about money. They like attention. And that was the big thing when I interviewed interviewing a bunch of OnlyFans models, and they'll tell you that.
I mean,
it's not
how
about
is
the
it
money.
not true? Like, it's not about the money. It's the attention economy. Besides, why would a woman need to get rich when she can just find a man and then he'll take care of her? I'm sorry, but there are still plenty of men out there that will take a woman who's done OnlyFans and maybe has multiple children. There's a simp born every minute, and women know that. And why would yeah, it's not like they don't see it as something I have to make this my job. They see it as I can get a lot of attention, a lot of positive affirmations, and I could make some money. I'll do all of that. Because if you don't know what desperation, in terms of financial desperation, where you're living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, if you don't know what that's like, and you've always had people taking care of you, why would you have the same kind of alarm around why would you have those priority? Why would it even enter your consciousness? You just be oh, I could do some, and a lot of these women, they have another job anyway. So the OnlyFans thing is just well, it's nighttime, I got shit to do. I guess I'll go on the laptop and show off my butthole. And
yeah, it's a side gig, right? And it's my sister, the doctor, right? She makes just 3 jobs now, three job titles now. She's basically consulting with high up in the healthcare system and stuff like that, right? And semi-retired with 3 jobs, but collecting a full pension, military pension. And well, once she logs off, she goes and sits in the office and watches something on TV or talks to her husband and her kids and stuff, and makes jewelry, and she sells it on Etsy. And it makes enough money for her to be able to continue making jewelry, basically. She doesn't make a profit. It's just something that she enjoys, right? And might as well finance the hobby by selling the stuff on Etsy, right? And this is if she enjoyed showing her butthole to multiple men, maybe she'd be doing that. Well, I don't think her husband would.
you could just show your feet and probably make a lot of money these days. You don't even have to exploit yourself that much. It's true. So sad, in my opinion, very sad. But let's listen to some more, because this gets a little bit good here.
A lot of them do. They say, I just enjoy taking off my clothes on camera.
Well, let's hear from somebody who has experience. Do you want to respond to that?
That's absolutely not true. I mean, just to use my anecdotal experience, I didn't even have social media before I started OnlyFans. I didn't have an Instagram. I do not care about attention. I just wanted to make a lot of money, which is why people do OnlyFans.
Well,
why would they want to get attention?
She didn't say
a lot of people hate you.
Yeah, of course, right. But I mean, does anyone really believe that she doesn't want any attention wearing that outfit? I'm sorry. Let's listen to more. Let's listen to more.
A lot of people think no one's going to marry you, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe those things, but I'm also able to advocate for, I'm a lawyer, so I'm more gifted in being able to combat that rhetoric. These girls are not. And a lot of these girls that are going into this, I'm the exception. They don't have other options. They're not super educated. They don't have other avenues to try to make a living. And then a lot of them, when they do go in this, when you say it's easy, it's not easy to make a ton of money on OnlyFans. I had to do a ton of marketing. I had no social media following ahead of it. You could say, okay, well, you look a certain way, whatever, but
how do you market your OnlyFans? Do you just put your tits on Instagram and then include a link?
She's literally saying, oh, these women who told Pearl that they're just in it for the attention, okay? And they're not in it for the money. She's telling them that the reason why they don't make a lot of money is because they're stupid. They're not as
she's
educated as her.
exceptional. She's exceptional.
I'm exceptional because I know I'm a lawyer and I know how to do the marketing and I know how to do this and that and the other thing, right? And I'm really super smart and therefore I can make a ton of money. But they can't because they're not all these things that I am. And it's like that, or maybe they just don't want to, right? Like a lot of people have always harangued me, oh, you could like make so much money if you just put out content and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it was never about the money. It was always about the content.
And I'm pretty sure that's not true with the OnlyFans. I mean, really. Okay, first of all, so what we're doing is we're comparing OnlyFans content creators to Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay, Leonardo DiCaprio is an artist who's creating statements on human existence. I don't know how you're bleached asshole, what kind of statement you're making on human existence with that. Right. So there's even more effort on the level of, I guess, personal understanding when it comes to Leonardo DiCaprio. Now you can say he's not a very great actor. I wouldn't necessarily agree. I think he has definitely done a wide range of film. You know, so all right. On the level of just artistic merit, there is no artistic merit to an OnlyFans account. I'm sorry. It's not what it's about. You might have things well done because you have, I don't know, somebody who produces the content, does the photography, chooses the shots, that kind of thing. They're bringing their artistic skills to your content, but it itself does not have artistic merit. I'm sorry, it doesn't. I guess there's a gray area with like artistic nudes, but that's not what's on OnlyFans.
No.
You're not, if there's a choice between doing something artistic and something that'll bring you money because gooners will look at it, what are you going to do? You're going to do the money. All right. So on the level of artistic merit, Leonardo DiCaprio has artistic merit. OnlyFans, very little. All right. And the fact that some OnlyFans creators don't make a lot of money, therefore the ones that do, it's more difficult. Okay, well, let's look at the proportion. How many people engage in acting as a hobby, right? Just because they want attention in their local theater, right? They want some kudos from their, neighborhood Christmas play. And how many actually make the effort to try to become a professional actor? How many wash out from that? How many men are who tried to be actors who failed completely compared to the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world?
Well,
I would say a lot.
Didn't we have like the Hollywood actors and writers strikes recently because, and one of the arguments was that these Hollywood writers and these Hollywood actors in many cases are not making enough, even if they're actually somewhat successful, recognizable, right? Mm-hmm. They're not making enough to survive on. Like, I'm sorry, but that is the case. I mean, like you have people who are full-time actors. It's like starving artist, right? Starving artist is a phrase for a reason, right? It's a term for a reason. Like how many garage bands never become Nirvana, right?
Exactly.
Or the Rolling Stones or the Beatles.
She's also including all the people who just do music as a hobby, and just want to have, they just want to take part with their neighbors or their community, and that's it. She's including all of that. And it's ridiculous. And the other thing is, I think the ultimate underlying argument that's here is these women are using the value we put into the female body in order to make money. Right? They're using the value of women's sexuality there. To make money. Leonardo DiCaprio may be a good-looking guy, but he doesn't have any innate value to the male body to draw on to get his success. And I think that's ultimately what we're talking about. We're talking about the innate value that women have in their physicality or whatever, and that is recognized, not just even physical, just the social value. The idea that women's approval is of a significant benefit to men. We're looking at that, and we're saying that these women are using that for selfish reasons. And that is a perfectly legitimate critique. And here's why. This ability, or this thing that's invested in women in society. It's invested in them because they are the producers of the next generation, and invested in them because they are the producers of the next generation. They ensure the survival of society into the next generation. So this value is actually a social contract, and women are breaking it by using it for selfish reasons instead of using what's imbued in them to create a society. And the irony is that they're not just using it for selfish reasons when it comes to men's lives, society's, the perpetuation of the society. They aren't supporting using what is imbued in them to support a society that grants them their rights in the first place. Yeah. What we've discovered from this gigantic experiment is that apparently women can't have this autonomy because they use it for selfish reasons. And they won't even have a sense of duty to the society that's given them the bloody autonomy that they enjoy. They don't even have a sense of duty to that society. In fact, it looks like, and this is a really not necessarily a conclusion I want to come to. It looks like patriarchy is essential for the perpetuation of a society, right? This is what we're seeing now. Women are given autonomy. They use the value imbued in them, not out of loyalty for the society that gives them autonomy. They just use it for these selfish reasons. Too many do. I'm sure there's many women who are still invested in using this gift, whether or not it's granted by society or biology or a combination of both, to actually protect the societies that protect them. But then there are these women who don't. And this social contract, people do have a right to judge women based on how they are employing it, because our survival is based on it. It's so funny. We want to say that women hold up half the sky, but at the same time as we do not want to give them responsibility when the sky falls.
Yeah. And, like you look at one of the things Jonathan Haidt said was, when you go and look back through history, there's one universal thing that you see when a society proceeds to or transitions into a civilization, and that's temples, right? Because the idea of common God, we are all God's children, we are all a brotherhood of men under God, blah, 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 right? That unites the people toward a common purpose and a common set of goals, and helps the society become organized enough to become a civilization, right? But what he didn't say, but perhaps should have or could have, is there's two things that you see, two universals that you see that you never you don't see them in societies that remain sort of chaotic and whatever, right? You need religion, you need patriarchy, right? There's never been a matriarchy that has ever created a civilization. It's why the bonobos are dying out, right? Even like the bonobos are protected as an endangered species, and they can't maintain themselves. They can't maintain their populations, right? Because they're ruled by the females. Whereas at least the patriarchal common chimpanzees, right, have been increasing in number, and have way more robust numbers in a wider range. And I can guarantee you, if they learn how to swim, or the Congo River dries up and they get south of that and get anywhere near those bonobos are going to be gone, like just gone.
Well, let's fucking go patriarchy. All right.
Well, let's qualify that, because I've been thinking about this. If simply what patriarchy seems to do, and it's and I would say small p patriarchy, or at least some kind of fundamental values, is it gives women a sense of duty and purpose in the society that they're a part of.
Yes.
Right. And that's it. Like, if we had that, and we didn't have the necessity or the putting men in positions of power, which I think is also a detriment to men, because in so doing, they lose whatever compassion they could possibly command. But that's another argument. If women today, if tomorrow, women in our society said, you know what's really attractive in a man? The fact he participates in a system in which I get rights and autonomy. Wow, that really makes men hot. I'm going to go out and get myself a husband and have children with him. If that was the case, our society would be 100% viable. but
Yeah.
it is not
No.
the case. For whatever reason, women do not consider men's participation in a society that grants them autonomy and rights to make those men more attractive than men who participate in a system in which women wear burqas and have to pray 5 times a day. Like literally, this system doesn't make men more attractive to women, and it has to if it wants to perpetuate itself. Literally, that is the evolutionary standard by which
natural selection. Yeah.
That is the evolutionary standard by which a civilization is judged. Does that civilization make its male members attractive to the female members? If it doesn't, it dies out. For some reason, patriarchy manages to do it, but feminist societies don't. And that means they are doomed. By definition, and the thing is that people will say, "Oh, you're such a misogynist." How does a society survive if it doesn't breed?
Yeah, well, and they've got so many, like they've got all these women like all panicking, all hysterical about the abortion issue, and it's like, not to get controversial here, but 75% of American women will never get an abortion. Like, that's just a fact.
That sounds
right?
really controversial, Karen.
And
unheard of.
50% of all abortions are attributable to 8% of all American women. So 8% of the women in America are responsible for 50% of the abortions. So you have a situation where, like, this doesn't even need to be on 75% of women's radar. The only issue that they have is that it could be. And then they trot out Amber Thurman, right? Here's what happened with Amber Thurman. It was all about Georgia's abortion ban. They have a 6-week ban, and she was more than 6 weeks along. She couldn't get an abortion, so she drove to North Carolina to an abortion clinic. She missed her appointment, and so they gave her abortion pills. And then, she drove home, and she got really sick, and then they delayed care. She went to the hospital. They delayed care for 20 hours, and then before they finally gave her the DNC that she needed, and then by then it was too late, and her organs failed, and she died. Now, Georgia does not criminalize women who seek or obtain abortions. They only criminalize providers in Georgia. Okay, abortion drugs are gone from your system 12 hours after taking the second pill. Okay. So at that point, it looks like nothing other than it just looks like a miscarriage, right? There's no way to tell the difference, right? So she didn't even have to tell the doctors that she'd had an abortion. She could have just told them she had a miscarriage if she'd been properly informed, right? But she could have told them that she'd had an abortion. She wouldn't have been in any trouble, right? She took those pills. She missed her appointment. They didn't do an ultrasound. No, just wait.
No, I think we dropped out. We dropped out. Did we drop out, Brian?
No, I see you guys.
Okay. She missed her appointment. They didn't do an ultrasound. The ultrasound is important because while abortion pills are generally considered safe until 10 or 11 weeks, right? After the placenta has implanted into the endometrium, it gets all entangled. The blood vessels, the vasculature gets all entangled on both sides. And it's no longer safe to use abortion pills. You have to go with the DNC. And what happened was they didn't do the ultrasound. The placenta can be implanted as early as 8 weeks. So you should really be doing an ultrasound to determine the level of placental development before you prescribe abortion pills. They didn't do that. Right? They sent her home. She was all scared by all these fucking feminists saying, "Oh, you're going to get arrested because they'll find out that you had an abortion," right? Because there's all this propaganda out there about how, and they're going to monitor women's health records and stuff to make sure that they don't have abortions or they'll be jailed if they do, and all of this crap. Okay? So she started having, she took the second pill. The first pill kills the baby or the fetus and the placenta, because the placenta is part of the fetus. The second one induces contractions to expel the dead tissue, right? Well, it wasn't all expelled. Some of the placenta got left behind because it was so entangled among the vasculature of the uterine lining, right? So a big chunk of placenta got left behind, and then that got infected because it's necrotized tissue. And then okay, so she's bleeding heavily and she's having all these problems and she starts to run a fever and she starts to get the sweats and the chills and starts to vomit and everything. By the time she went into the hospital, she was septic, seriously to severely septic. Okay? And I still don't think she told the doctors right away what the problem was, because her own mother didn't know, who was probably sitting at her bedside. Her own mother didn't know that she'd had an abortion. So if she didn't tell her own mother, she probably didn't tell the doctors, right? But by the time you're seriously to severely septic, the first thing you do, right, is you do the broad spectrum antibiotics, right, and try and bring down the infection, stabilize the patient before you go into surgery, because by the time she got to the emergency room, she already had a 30% chance of dying. She was already at a 50% chance of dying after 5 years. There's a 50% survival rate for sepsis after 5 years, right? Because it damages your organs so badly, right? So they were probably trying to get the infection as under control as possible, and maybe she didn't even tell them where the problem was, where the infection had originated. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what was the first thing that made this girl, that led to this sequence of events? Prescribing abortion pills with no ultrasound, with no reliable dates to date the pregnancy, just hand them out like candy, and the scare tactics that are being used, that if you tell the doctors, right, that you got an abortion, they're gonna have you arrested. And if the doctors delayed care, which I don't think that they delayed care improperly, right? Care, the only care being the DNC, because they misunderstood the law, right? Hospitals have like an army of fucking lawyers that interpret those laws, and they would have no heartbeat, DNC, no heartbeat, no problem. So it's like I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, like, those abortionists were the ones who led to that death, right? The abortionists and the abortion activists who scared the shit out of that girl, so she delayed going in. She was so sick, she was probably maybe even delirious by that point, before she even went into the ER, because she was scared she was going to get arrested, because she was lied to by the propagandists, right? And they're pinning this all on these doctors who may not have even known what the problem was, but even if they did know, they gave appropriate care absent knowing what the problem was, right? Even if they did know what the problem was, antibiotics, stabilize the patient, bring down the infection, then you cut her open, then you do the procedure, right? Otherwise, she could just die on the operating table anyway, right? So I'm just like, that whole fucking thing is all about the rhetoric. It's all about the rhetoric around abortion, right? And I keep coming back to that fucking woman in Canada, right? Who is like, she's a maid's doctor.
The one that was smiling about the maid service, medical assistance in dying. And it was like a whole thing about her, and she's like, you know, she's just like, just creepy woman, just creepy.
Yeah, originally I was doing surgical abortions. Okay. But then mifepristone, which is the drug responsible for Amber Thurman's death, by the way, mifepristone was approved in Canada. And I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to get a new racket, right? But lucky for me, medical assistance in dying was approved in Canada that same year. So I just transitioned from killing fetuses to killing adults.
State assisted though, so that means it's good. Yes. All right, let's get to the next part of this. Unless Alison wants to say something. All right, so I jumped to the next statement because we only got like 15 minutes because we have to do an after show, and I have to pick Lindsay up, and Karen can't stay for a whole lot longer anyway.
I actually should go at the exact same. I don't even know if I can stay for an after show.
Yeah. So let's play some more of this video. Now, this is the next statement. Feminism is trying to remove masculinity from society.
Okay, see if you can still on the meme though.
Oh yeah, let me switch it back. I'm sorry. I like the meme, but I will use it as a reminder. All right, but anyway, feminism is trying to remove masculinity from society is the next question. See if you guys can figure out who's going to step forward for this.
Society. If you agree, please step forward. All right, Nate, go start us off.
You know, I think the best thing to say is probably that they're trying to be masculine. So they're trying to remove what masculinity is today and replace it by a version of femininity that is masculine.
Who's they?
Wait.
Feminists.
Okay, no, does he answer that question? I'm just curious. Let's hear him.
He said feminists when he was asked.
Okay.
They asked him who's doing it. He said feminists.
Well,
No.
that was the question, though. It's inherent in the question who the they is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is, it's very dishonest to say that in that way.
Really dumb question.
It's basically what he's saying is that it's not about, he's saying that feminists aren't necessarily trying to remove masculinity. They're trying to replace it with like women
doing it.
Like women doing it. Yeah. But they're not really doing it. It's more like cosplaying it, you know?
Well, not even. Like the thing is that feminism has the most stereotypical and ridiculous definition of masculinity. So
I'm a man. Remember that?
What they're encouraging women to do is engage in negative behaviors that they attribute to men because they're misinterests. So they basically say, well, men are abusive, so women will be abusive.
Men are promiscuous, so women will be
promiscuous. Men are sexually aggressive without concern of their partners, and then they use that to excuse all of the women's behavior, and that is not masculinity, and that is not mature masculinity throughout all of history. Like I've been reading a book that is basically a ethnographic and maybe an like a historical study of masculinity, and one of the most consistent things is this idea that a man is generous and giving. So that is consistent throughout cultures and throughout
the wise king, the wise leader, generous, magnanimous, merciful.
Yeah, and also protective and provides and protects. This is masculinity. If feminists were actually encouraging women to be masculine, they would be encouraging women to be generous, to be self-sacrificing, to recognize the needs of others who are not women, and to protect and provide for others. That's not what feminists are encouraging. What they're encouraging is this incredibly negative stereotype of what we think men have gotten away with. Now it's women's turn to get away with things that men never got away with. Right?
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with masculinity. It has to do with being a shitbird. And so they're not encouraging women to be masculine. So when he says that, I think that and then the funny thing is that they say that when women nag and when women are this emotionally aggressive and socially that's masculine, and yet for the most part, I only ever see women doing that. Mm-hmm. So how is that masculine? Like men tend to be more like, oh, you've identified a problem, let me go fix it. Not, I am going to browbeat another human being into solving my problems. I've rarely seen men do that. I mean, they do, but it's not generally associated with masculinity. Solving the problem is associated with masculinity. So how
can you stop licking yourself, please?
Me?
All right.
No, she's talking to her dog.
Currently licking myself, Karen.
Well, that's masculinity for you.
Yeah, but did you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Feminists don't encourage women to be masculine. They encourage women to be
they encourage women to be Gilgamesh at the first chapter of the epic, not the last chapter of the epic.
Yeah.
That's what they're encouraging.
Shall we listen to somebody who's got a little bit more of a finger on the pulse of what problem?
Well, first, I got to read some super chats that I missed. They didn't show up in my Social Stream Ninja. So I'm going to read them really quick right now, and then we'll play more of this. Asthrun gives us $5 and says, the men weren't complaining about porn before OnlyFans is a spiel by these people to perpetuate the idea that any criticism is about men's inherent drive to control women's bodies. But let's ignore how these OnlyFans people are abusing the power they have and then cry about it. I mean, if they're making a lot of money, then they clearly are like, they have some control, right? Richard Bier then gives us $5 and says, would have anyone known who Paris Hilton is if she hadn't made her sex tape? or Kim Kardashian for that matter, who's even less known. At least Paris Hilton is the daughter of the guy who owns the Hilton hotels, right? And if she were to become the overall leader of the hotel company, how would that company do in the future? Well, she probably wouldn't do any work. She probably have people doing all of the stuff for her. So I would assume that the Hiltons would do the same as they've been doing. I don't even think her father does a whole lot there.
I know. I would assume her dad would give her good advice as to who to put in charge of things. So
yeah. All right. So thank you for that. Let's play some more of this video.
I thought that's who we were talking about.
Got it.
And you hear it in the question, like he said.
I think that feminists are against anything that's actually masculine.
So they're trying to get rid of it, is what you say.
But I think it's more than that. They're kind of replacing it. They're kind of trying to redefine what masculinity is. You know what? Probably the better answer is traditional masculinity is being replaced by something that is not masculine at all.
Nope.
Well, and the question is, how do you raise masculine men?
That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're removing all the recognition. They can't do a damn thing about masculinity because masculinity is something that comes out of men. What they're trying to do is get rid of any recognition of the positive attributes of masculinity in society.
Described his process very well in an academic paper in terms of developing the new conformity to masculine norms inventory. Well, we just took anything that was positive about men that women also felt like, you know, sometimes I'm expected to be brave. Sometimes I'm expected to be hardworking. Sometimes I'm expected to be successful. Right. And they just removed all of those off the list and they were left with like the negative traits. Right.
Yep. And they don't recognize, even if you take away the expectations placed on men, that masculinity and men itself has a beneficial way of approaching things. So men being masculine approach problems, approach parenting, approach work in a way that's beneficial for everyone. They can't even they cannot recognize that. They can't acknowledge that. And every time I've asked a feminist, okay, you associate all these toxic things with masculinity, name one thing, one uniquely positive thing that you associate with masculinity the way you associate these toxic things. They don't. So this whole exercise is in removing recognitions of the positive things that masculinity and men bring society, which are many and varied, and it's very easy to figure it out, and replacing it with an association between men and criminal and toxic behaviors. That's what it is. You know, and they aren't replacing masculinity with something. They're trying to make men acknowledge that their masculinity offers nothing to the world and everything that's good about them is due to the fact that they've embraced femininity or subjugation to feminism.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be the way I would put it. All right, let's play some more.
You need fathers in the home to teach them it. And feminism have given incentives to take the father out of the home.
And do you want to give us a few examples before we pull these guys in?
Well, what % of men actually get custody of their children? It's 50% of their DNA. Why don't they get 50% custody?
All right, let's bring in our disagreeers.
Men typically.
I want to ask why did Blue Orange not agree? Why does he disagree? I don't know if he's going to bring it up, but I'm curious about that. He probably is like, well, we don't want to say anything crazy hyperbolic, you know. We don't want to like lose favor with the feminists that we're trying to work with. Sometimes I wonder if he's not a fed, I swear. All right. I swear, I do. Sometimes I wonder.
Okay.
Get custody of their children.
Before we continue, are these people actually going to argue against the idea that feminism is trying to change or remove masculinity, or are they going to be object examples that feminism is trying to change or remove masculinity?
I don't know. It's a good question.
It already has succeeded in their case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this dude here on the right of the plant, he is going to probably say, well, what if it is men? What if it is that? It doesn't exist. Is actually in support of the argument here. I have become the thing that they told me. I have evolved. Allow me to photosynthesize your argument because. All right, but anyway, let me play it.
Way more often than not, when a woman rightfully and honestly gives her experience of domestic violence in the marriage, she's more likely to lose custody of her children. There is no issue with men
Yep.
getting custody.
That is absolute feminist informed bullshit.
Yeah, unless you're counting Lygia freaking Filler, Vladek's ex.
Well, just give a bit of an explanation of that, Karen.
Vladek Fuller, the
Yeah,
explanation.
Vladek's ex, yeah.
Yeah, just
Did Alison drop out? Oh, shit.
no.
No, she's asking you for the backstory.
Give us the back.
Vladek Filler's ex. So she was massively abusive to the kids, massively abusive to him, right? And she mentally ill, right? Just psycho, right? So she was picked up by the cops walking down the street, right? The middle of the street, naked, okay? Screaming threats and obscenities, okay? And she's in the back of the cop car and they recorded her and she was like threatening the cops. She was like, I have brothers and they're gonna cut you into pieces and bury you where they'll never find you, you fucking cops, and shit like that, right? Just absolute fucking psycho, right? So then she gets in to the cop station and they got the cameras on her in the waiting room before the interview, right? Or in the interview room with her advocate friend, right? You know, and the friend is telling her, you need to like gin up some tears, tell them that he raped you, right? And so she did. She ginned up some tears and told her that he raped her. And that began his years-long odyssey through the court system, right? Now, the judge in the family court was actually sane. So while Vladek Filler is in jail, okay, in jail on domestic violence and spousal rape charges, okay, awaiting trial, the kids were put into care. They were not given back to the mother, okay, because she's a psycho and the family judge had some experience with her, right? She twice tried to kidnap them from foster care, right? And then he was convicted of rape and the judge awarded custody to him, right? Because she was the psycho. And I mean, like, I've met these kids. Wait, no, not those kids. I haven't met his kids, but similar situation, right? Like, he basically, the family court judge saw through the whole thing, right? And this is in Maryland, I think it was, or one of those sort of New England. And Bar Harbor, Maine. It was in Maine. Bar Harbor DA, radical feminist named Mary Kellett, decided it was her life's mission to get him convicted. So she withheld a ton of evidence. She even ordered police to destroy evidence, right? Okay. And then in her closing arguments at his trial, right, she says to the jury, well, if there was any evidence he didn't rape her, you'd think he would have presented it. Okay.
What? How do you? Okay.
Yeah, you'd think he would have presented it. And like, she just refused to disclose evidence on discovery that was exculpatory for him. She even ordered some of it destroyed. The police did not do that, thank goodness. But which is why we have that police recording of her in the backseat of the police car threatening to cut the cops into little pieces and bury them where no one will ever find them, right? And so you have this situation where there's this psycho woman, and you know what? She got disciplined. She was suspended for 2 months while the disciplinary hearings were going on. And then they gave her a suspension, a sentence of suspended suspension, right? So basically, you can go back to work as long as you behave. We suspend you for 2 months, but you've already, whatever it was, right? We're suspending it as long as you behave. We're suspending the suspension as long as you behave. she ended up getting fired when she was an ADA, assistant district attorney, I believe. And when the new DA was elected, he fired her almost immediately. But she had a rate of prosecution for domestic violence and sexual assault that was 42 times higher than any other prosecutor in the region. 42 times higher. So she obviously had an agenda. And Lygia Filler was an absolute fucking nut job. Violent, right? Violent with the kids, violent with her husband, violent with the cops, violent with everybody. And he, a convicted rapist and domestic abuser, won custody of his kids. Well, that means he was a rapist and a domestic abuser, right? You've met Vladik. He's the sweetest guy ever, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful guy.
Is he going to get that overturned, or?
I think they did eventually overturn it, but
because it was prosecutorial misconduct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And here's the thing. We don't hear stories about this in the reverse.
No.
Like we don't never hear stories like this in the reverse where a man gets the mother accused of rape and then she loses custody and she was the one who was the victim of a out of control chief prosecutor, or was it assistant prosecutor?
Well, out of control. It was an assistant DA, but you do have like Oren Amate. He's like he's a psychologist. I interviewed him on my channel a while back, or maybe it was on his channel. But he said like you do see cases of women coming in who have also been just absolutely destroyed by the family court system, right? Unjustly, right? And it's like he's like they all have one thing in common. They married a very smart, very charming, very charismatic sociopath, right? Okay, just somebody who's just like that smooth, right? Gavin Newsom. They married Gavin Newsom and they got screwed in the divorce and in family court, right? When you see men coming in for counseling because they've been reamed, doesn't need to be very smart, very charming, very charismatic sociopath. It just needs to be a woman.
So essentially, a man needs to be like
work extra hard to screw a woman over in divorce court. That's why it's celebrated.
Not just be motivated to do it, and also have the skills to do it, which is going to put him in like the top 1% of socially skilled men. Like, and usually those are sociopaths. So yeah. So the only people that the family courts actually embolden are sociopathic men and women with very low morals.
Yep.
Okay. All right. There we go. That's
at least good. I can still get an abortion.
Yeah. I think we have to. We have to stop because I have to do the patron show and then I got to pick Lindsay up. So
okay, yeah.
And then Karen's got to go soon, anyways. But I think we should keep going with this because it gets a lot better. So
I mean,
even better. So yeah, I don't know. Like there's not a lot else going on, and I think it's a pretty decent video to respond to. Might as well.
We could do it. We could continue tomorrow at same time.
Friday, same time. If Karen wants to, sure.
What do you think? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Then that's what we'll do. We will continue.
Wait, maybe not.
It's Friday. It's Friday, so
no. I'm just thinking, do I have to drive my mother somewhere?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay, well we'll follow up. But anyway, we will continue this because it is an amalgamation of all the crap that people use to pretend they don't have problems. This isn't a problem.
I just wish people on these things, right, these Jubilee things, I wish they were actually more informed, because a lot of them aren't. Like the people who are arguing on the side.
No, they're just like TikTok influencers and
that we're generally on, right?
Okay.
We're generally on. They're just not informed enough to really make the argument.
Or Jubilee is like selecting people for different reasons.
Well, they did invite me on, so maybe because I'm a complete spurg, and they thought that they would get good copy from me somehow. But I would have tried to elevate the conversation. But the thing is that we need to get well past arguing whether or not the problem exists. We need to solve the problem.
Well, I mean, Jubilee's questions, remember, that they're the ones setting the tone. with questions like, feminism is trying to remove society. Women shouldn't be judged for slutty behavior, things like that. So like you're kind of like, okay, what you have to do is you have to take the shitty question that they put out there and you have to like make something edible out of it. Yeah, you have to polish the turd, yes. So that's the challenge. But I think there's people that are up to it.
Okay, well, the thing is, like, if they asked a question like, okay, is feminism getting rid of masculinity? I probably would have laid out the argument that I laid out here. Yes, and it's patently obvious, and I would actually even propose to the people who stand up and try to defend this, what is a positive quality that you associate with men in the same way that you associate these negative qualities? And if you can't say it, then you may not be trying to remove masculinity, but you sure as hell are trying to frame it in the worst possible light. But then the question is, why? Why are we trying to get rid of masculinity? I mean, it's obvious, but why? Why are we doing this? That's what I would probably try to steer the conversation towards, so we can start getting into the realm of trying to figure out a solution. But, I didn't go because I didn't want to test. My 5-year ban ended this August, but it's an iffy thing, let's just say. Every border crossing is a fiefdom onto the border guards.
Yeah, ever since that DHS report too, right?
DHS report? Okay.
Do you remember the report commissioned for the DHS spent like
the Department of Homeland Security when they spent all that money to like discourage manosphere content?
Yeah, incel adjacent, named me by name, named honey badgers by name.
So I'm on, as an agent of the society that, I'm on a watch list probably.
Yeah, you're on the extra pat down plus list.
I was able to get into Canada and back, so maybe
because
special.
No, it's because you're a US citizen, so you returning from Canada, not a problem, right? But if you're trying to enter Canada, well, Canada does not have the DHS's the little freaking report on incel adjacent potential domestic terrorists, right? Or if they do, they don't take it seriously. So yeah, it's a little bit different when you're a foreigner coming in than
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
If I ever test the border thing, it's probably going to just be for like a vacation. I'm not even going to attempt anything that has nothing to do with business, but could be tangentially related or presented as having some kind of connection. Like, we'll see.
Stealing an American's job or whatever. Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So if you want to support the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support. There's a little bit left on the clock for the fundraiser, and every bit helps. I do want to do a shout out to Anonymous for putting in that last $25, Hunzi for putting in $50. So I think we're over the current goal, although anything additional will be going towards the shortfall in the getting to do the meetup in last month, which I think was a huge success. I was very grateful to everybody who came out. It was great to see you guys, great to talk, great to feel like these ideas aren't abnormal. They're sensible, they're common sense, and common sense people agree. All right, so want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. If you want to send us a message, feedthebadger.com/justthetip is the very best way to send us a message and tip us for our work. If you enjoyed it, hello to the new viewers on the vertical stream, because I see that we got a fair amount as far as I can tell.
That's what the vertical streams are for. That is how they are used. So.
Hello, everybody who's new. I hope you enjoyed what we brought. I know it's a bit different, so you probably were busily trying to categorize it into something. And we did have one person who came on and said, I don't like this. I don't know what you guys are doing. Bye. But the rest of you who stayed, welcome. Enjoy our content going forward. And I'll send it back to you, Brian.
Okay. Do you have any thank yous to do? I don't know if the fundraiser was finished or anything like that. I know today's Halloween. Today's the last day. I don't know if we got thank yous. If we can't do that,
I'll see if there's any further thank yous.
All right.
Just give me a second. It's a little slower on this computer. Okay, well, we got Craig C put in $50 just a little bit ago.
Thank you, Craig. My soundboard's not working. Otherwise, I would play something.
Let me check and see.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you.
Okay.
The best donations, the best support. My thing's not working. So
yeah,
huge. It's huge support. Thank you.
So thank you, Craig. See, there were some super chats, but I think you read them. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for sticking with us despite my entire setup crapping out and me having to go to the secondary setup, which I guess turned out okay. All right. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Rantzerker, and we'll talk to you guys in the next video. Have a good one, everybody.
Right, activists are